former senior counselor to President Trump, Kellyanne Conway, and former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. Thank you so much for both being here. Let me start with you, Kellyanne, because Americans seem to be fed up with what they perceive to be a two-tiered system of justice. Those same Americans feel the Democrats are using the justice system to forcefully remove Donald Trump from the next election. Obviously, that's not something that he is willing to do at this point. But the question really is the Democrat strategy backfiring?
Well, it may, Jackie, and thanks for having me on, especially with Speaker Gingrich. This is why. They're also watching what's going on with Hunter Biden. And this isn't simply whataboutism. This is a 53-year-old man who's on this never-ending take-your-child-to-work day charade with his parents. Not only do we know of 13 countries he flew to on Air Force Two with his father as vice president, but now he seems to be living in the White House, traveling around with his mother and father, all the while still facing a FARA charge, gun charges, and tax evasion charges. All three types of counts for which people have received punishment and in some cases jail time. And yet people see that the plea deal fell apart, the misdemeanor charges went away, and he's still being investigated. As for President Trump, this two-tier justice system is something I hear about all the time from voters, from people who didn't even support him one time or two times. They feel it's a dangerous precedent, and they also feel that the Democrats don't know how to beat him fairly and squarely. You saw on the debate stage 8 men and women who would like to, a woman who would like to be president instead. Let's see if the polls move, given the president's 4 indictments and the fact that they had the place to themselves to introduce themselves to the voters. If the polls don't move much, you'll see that he's still very strong in the Republican Party.
All great points. Newt, I want to get to you on this same issue. You've spent many years in politics. You know the system well. Is this signifying that there's a breakdown in our system in this country?
Well, first of all, let me just say it's great to be with Kellyanne, who I admire and think is one of the best pollsters in either party. So I'm always interested in what she has to say. Look, I think we underestimate how big the crisis is. I'm starting a series in the American Spectator in September outlining this is much bigger than Joe Biden or Hunter Biden. It goes back at least to Bill Clinton and Al Gore. It is accelerated by Hillary Clinton, who is a much, much bigger crook than Joe Biden. I compare Chicago crime to Delaware crime, and you have an idea of Hillary versus Joe. And frankly, Barack Obama is the key to having corrupted the entire system. We're in a genuine crisis of what kind of America we're going to be. And what you saw yesterday was not the rule of law. It was the rule of power. It's exactly what the Nicaraguan dictator is doing right now to a Catholic bishop. It's exactly what the Chinese have done to a Catholic cardinal. It's what Putin has done to his political opponent, who just got another additional 19-year sentence while already in prison. This has nothing to do with justice. This is a district attorney who is corrupt, partisan, and I believe totally breaking the law and the Constitution.
Kellyanne, I want to come back to you because you mentioned the debates as well. Any standout players on the stage in your view? Because it was fiery. They went after each other. But of course, Donald Trump wasn't there, and he was in the lead in the polls as we were going into the debates. Anybody really stand out as a competitor?
Sure, he's beating every single one of them in every single statewide and nationwide poll. But I think what they're doing is playing for number 2, which is why there's a lot of fire and ire trained on Governor Ron DeSantis, who came in there in the number 2 spot. He didn't do himself much harm. He had a couple really good moments, actually. And I think they were also coming after Vivek Ramaswamy on some of his foreign policy positions, but also because he has something they don't. He truly is an outsider, successful billionaire businessman. Sound familiar, anyone? Who can attack the system by not being in it. I thought Nikki Haley did well. I disagree with her on a federal minimum 15-week standard on abortion. We should have that because California, Illinois, Colorado, New York, and another state all have abortion at 39 weeks. So if you're at 15 weeks and babies are being born and surviving at 23 weeks, you're in a good place to smoke out the Democrats' extremism. But here's what I thought about the entire debate, Jackie. I was proud to be a Republican because I feel that it was a substantive a conversation, not soundbite substance, not just personalities, but principles and policies. And it exposed and laid bare the failed presidency and the failed man that is Joe Biden. I don't think I even heard Kamala Harris's name. The Democrats don't talk about her. Yeah. Republicans don't talk about her. Yet she is complicit in what is a failed presidency. So I think we saw 8 able people to be president. But we'll see. President Trump is a dominant frontrunner. Since 2000 and George W. Bush, for whom Newt will remember, they cleared the field, so he didn't have all this competition. We haven't had somebody so dominant in the polls, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you bring up a great point about Vivek. I thought he was very authentic in standing up for Donald Trump as well, but you make the point that he's an outsider in the stage, so certainly he can understand that point of view. Newt, I'm going to come back to you on this because you both mentioned Hunter Biden, and we've got some new information this week showing that Biden traveled to at least 13 countries on Air Force Two, joining then Vice President Joe Biden on official trips. We've got some emails from Hunter's laptop showing that in 2010, he told a business associate that he could, quote, catch a ride to Serbia with his dad. Now we've got House Speaker Kevin McCarthy warning the GOP could launch an impeachment inquiry into President Biden as early as next month. What's it going to take for that inquiry to get going?
Well, I think the House has to vote that they're willing to set up the inquiry. I think Speaker McCarthy is exactly right. The next step is an inquiry. And frankly, I don't get the elite media's avoidance of reality here. Hunter Biden was the bag man for the Biden family group, who are basically sort of the Sopranos without the murders. The fact is that the Bidens have been out there taking money, and they've done it. They thought they were clever. They thought they'd never be caught. But nobody believes. I mean, I can't even believe hardcore Democrats believe that people in China, Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Romania were all giving Hunter Biden money because he was Hunter Biden. If his name had been Hunter Smith, he wouldn't have gotten a penny. Remember, for much of this period, this guy's a drug addict. He can't perform. He doesn't have any technical knowledge. He's a fixer. And how does he fix things? He gets his dad to do it. And I think it's going to become obvious. And as I said earlier, just remember, this is the smallest of the 3 scandals. Yeah. The Hillary Clinton scandal is bigger, and the Obama scandal, which the media has carefully avoided, is the biggest of all. These 3 have corrupted the American system on a scale that I would have thought impossible 20 years ago.
Kellyanne Conway, Newt Gingrich, thank you so much, both of you, for being here. Excellent insight.